Israel's innovation economy didn't emerge despite pressure. It emerged because of it. Here's what nobody tells you. In some systems, instability doesn't suppress creativity, it hardwires it. This is where the pattern begins, not with abundance, but with permanent constraint. From its founding in 1948, Israel faced isolation, security threats, limited natural resources, and repeated economic shocks. Inflation surged past 400% in the mid-1980s. Defense spending consumed vast portions of GDP. Markets were small, capital was scarce. For anyone today living in an economy shaped by uncertainty, conflict, or constant disruption, the question Israel forces into focus is sharp. How does innovation thrive when stability never arrives? Most economies treat crisis as an interruption. Israel treated it as an operating condition. Early on, survival required improvisation. Decisions were made fast because delay carried cost. Hierarchies flattened because ranks slowed response. Failure wasn't theoretical, it was visible and immediate. This shaped behavior long before it shaped companies. By the time Israel began producing startups, it had already produced a mindset comfortable with ambiguity, not confidence. Adaptability. Here's the mechanism. Mandatory military service acted as an unintentional accelerator for human capital. Young people were placed in high-responsibility roles early. They learned systems thinking, rapid problem-solving, and decision-making under pressure before entering civilian life. Let me show you exactly how this mattered. When those individuals later entered technology, they didn't wait for permission. They questioned assumptions, challenged authority, and moved quickly. Not rebellion. Efficiency. At first, this looked like chaos. Direct communication replaced formality. Deference was rare. Teams argued openly. Everyone thought this culture would collapse under scale. It didn't, because it wasn't designed for harmony. It was designed for speed. The danger wasn't conflict, it was complacency, and complacency never had time to settle. Economic challenges reinforced this psychology. Small domestic markets forced companies to think globally from day one. You couldn't build for Israel alone. That wasn't ambition. It was necessity. Products were designed for export. Networks extended outward immediately. Risk tolerance increased because downside was already familiar. Here's why this matters. When failure is normalized early, experimentation accelerates later. Immigration waves compounded the effect. Highly educated newcomers arrived from different systems, languages, and disciplines. Instead of homogenizing, Israel compressed diversity into a dense ecosystem. Ideas collided. Methods clashed. Innovation didn't emerge from consensus. It emerged from friction, not comfort. Tension. By the 1990s, technology and defense spillovers began leaking into civilian startups. Knowledge moved fluidly between sectors. Government programs reduced early-stage risk without dictating outcomes. Venture capital followed, not blindly, but strategically. At first, it looked like instability producing noise. Then the signal strengthened. Startups multiplied. Exits followed. The ecosystem began compounding. But beneath the success, a deeper pattern was forming. Innovation thrived not because challenges disappeared, but because the system learned to metabolize them. Pressure wasn't a phase, it was the baseline, and that baseline shaped every decision that followed. The unresolved question wasn't whether innovation could survive under pressure, it was whether it could scale without losing the very traits that made it possible Israel's innovation engine didn't run on calm. It ran on constant recalibration. Here's what nobody tells you. Systems built for pressure often struggle when success arrives. This is where the pattern deepens, from improvisation to exposure. As Israel's tech sector integrated into global markets, new constraints emerged. Capital increased. Expectations rose. Geopolitics didn't fade. They intensified. Here's the mechanism. Israel's innovation model relied on speed, global integration, and early exits. Startups moved fast, sold early, and reinvested knowledge back into the ecosystem. This created liquidity and experience, but it also limited scale. Some economists argue that Israel optimized for innovation creation, not long-term industrial depth. Others suggest that in a small, volatile environment, this was rational. One scenario indicates that early exits reduced systemic risk. Another suggests they capped domestic value capture. At first, it looked like a miracle. Startups per capita soared. Foreign investment poured in. Headlines followed. Then the bill arrived. Inequality widened. Tech clustered wealth and opportunity unevenly. Housing costs rose. Non-tech sectors lagged. The danger wasn't failure. It was imbalance. Here's the trap. When innovation becomes identity, vulnerability concentrates. Israel's economy grew more exposed to global capital cycles and geopolitical shocks. Talent flowed toward tech, leaving other sectors strained. Analysts suggest this made growth faster but narrower, resilient but uneven. If this pattern applies elsewhere, the lesson is not that pressure automatically creates innovation. It's that pressure reshapes behavior, and behavior reshapes systems. Israel's success came from converting constraint into speed, fear into experimentation, and uncertainty into default readiness. But that conversion isn't frictionless. It demands constant adjustment. Here's why this matters now. Many countries facing instability hope to replicate Israel's startup model. They copy venture funds, accelerators, and slogans. They miss the deeper layer. Innovation didn't emerge because of policy alone. It emerged because risk was unavoidable, failure was survivable, and speed was rewarded socially, not just financially. Israel's innovation thrived amid economic challenges because challenge was never optional. The system adapted to that reality instead of resisting it. Whether that model remains sustainable as success accumulates and as pressure changes shape remains unresolved. The final lesson isn't that hardship guarantees innovation. It's that innovation emerges where systems stop pretending stability is the default. And in a world where stability is increasingly fragile, that lesson may be more relevant than ever.